Before we continue, understand this podcast is for adults only and refers to relationships and activities between adults which are voluntary and consensual. If you or anyone you know is being abused, coerced, or violently aggressed against, please reach out for help to the appropriate authorities. Tal, hello, and welcome. Gorean Voice, Episode 13. Let's Ride. Thanks for joining me again this week. Today I'd like to talk about motorcycles. I'd like to start by reiterating a forum post I wrote on the Gorean Gathering Place FetLife group a couple years ago. It's titled simply, Let's Ride. And here it is. The Gorean books, from the first word of the title of the first story, place a great emphasis on flying, tarnback riding. Those men who take to the skies, even being nominally of the lowest high caste, seem to be accorded a tremendous respect. Courage to undertake such a dangerous task, the mastery of the animal and handling methods, the steeling of the nerves to not falter during unexpected situations, and aerial combat. Sounds like fun. What is an earthly man of Gorean temperament to do? Well, one can pick up quite the Cessna habit. It's an expensive hobby, generally only accessible to the top percentile of earners. Shoot for the stars, though, it's your money. Plus, you're sealed into the cabin unless you like to fly like Snoopy. What about jumping out of planes? It's a little rough on the knees, and the way our planet and societies are laid out, only the most specialized professionals or dedicated enthusiasts may partake with any regularity. It's also undertaken in a way disconnected from the rest of society. One's gang doesn't parachute onto the roof of a gentleman's bar, order ales and lap dances, and fly off into the sunset. So aviators and airborne may scratch that itch, but in a way somewhat removed from the everyday. Tarns can be ridden with more regularity. Boats? Same problem as planes. Expensive, and you can't park them close to where you want to go unless you're a coastal dweller. Even then, options are limited outside of Venice. Personal watercraft? Getting warmer. Same problem as boats, but with more fun. What can a man ride that will get you anywhere on land you want to go? Let him stare danger in the face and laugh, and has a low enough barrier to entry that pretty much any able-bodied working man can partake. Horses? Too niche, cowboy. Bicycles? Too slow, Francie Pants. Supercars? Too expensive and can't go everywhere. Motorcycles. Hug the tank, light on the grips, or reclining with feet forward and ape hangers, motorcycles are the way to go. 1%ers may just be the most Gorean men on this planet. Some call them scoundrels, scofflaws. Judge them also by the quality of their enemies. Men who ride have a connection, a kinship, even with their opponents. I tend to throw a smidge more respect some lad's way once I find out he's adept on two wheels, more if he's licensed, more still if he rode in this morning. As for women, makes less than no difference to me. All my mounts were built in the land of the rising sun. To some those are lesser, doesn't bother me. I might be tempted to look down at someone on a ruckus, a Bergman, or some pure Chinesium scooter like a Leafan, but I won't. Not too much anyhow. Unlike the men of Gore, we probably aren't staring down centuries of eternal youth when we swing over the saddle. We've got another 50 or so to go, maybe a hair more. How do I want to spend them? I've got young kids. I think about them every day. But my mind is a complete empty void when I'm in the saddle on the way home. I'm in communion. Squeeze, kick, lean, and roll. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, eyes on horizon. There's room enough on Gore for many more sorts than tarnsmen, but who's coming to your barbecue? So lads, what do you think about bikes? Do you ride? What do you think about other men who ride? What about men who don't? Lasses, answer if you want, but I probably won't believe you. Gotta go. There's 45 kilometers to cross to get home for dinner. Well, that's the end of the post. I enjoyed the discussion that came of it. One fellow suggested that, unlike tarns, motorcycles are not likely to eat their rider if they get careless or lose their touch. I submit that motorcycles repay carelessness in precisely the same coin as tarns would. If you're mauled to death by a giant bird on a pretend planet, or snapped in two by the force of a high-speed collision, you're just as dead. I found some fellow Goreans who have the same all the gear all the time, or ATG, ATT, habit as I do. One such fellow spoke about buying a mount for his slave/wife. One fellow even claimed to be starting a Priest King's motorcycle club. The most interesting reply, though, came from a user. He mentioned that due to his disability, he makes use of an electric scooter. Fair enough, but what I think is germane is his observation that his adapted Gorean practice takes him into nature as much as possible and away from the city. He even claims that he can walk farther in the woods than he can in the concrete jungle. The fresh forest air invigorates him rather than aggravating his lung issues, as does the pollution and brake dust that swirls about our urban sidewalks. I think he's onto something. Riding itself is a great way to get into that wonderful danger zone, urban or rural, and still keep the edge in sight. I'm okay on two wheels, so gymkhana, highway commuting and trail smoking is near my limit. I don't do backflips on dirt bikes, nor trials, nor MotoGP. Someday, I'll not have the same strength, flexibility, posture, and physique as I do now, but I suspect I'll still find a place somewhere between extended reach and firm grasp. There will come a day when a walk in the woods will be enough of a challenge for me. It's probably not within the next 30 years, but it will come. I just hope it will be a son, rather than a grandson, who hears me cry out and finds me having reached, as always, just beyond my grasp. I guess we all have our ways of getting into the zone, and some of the best men die there. I've long held that the problem for most men is not that their reach exceeds their grasp, but that their grasp exceeds their nerve. There's something else about riding, though. There's an element of freedom that I think finds its maximal expression ripping down the highway on two wheels. And I think it's especially well suited to the wide open spaces in the Western Hemisphere. It may be the case that all the land is claimed by some sovereign, some state, some private person or corporation, fair enough. But when you're cruising on two wheels, it really does, as a man, feel like one can ride off into the sunset and claim some piece of the earth for oneself and one's own. There is, of course, also the matter of passengers. There is a particular compliment that a woman pays to her man when she puts her life in his hands by getting on the back of his bike. Don't get me wrong. A woman puts her life in a man's hands any time she's alone with him, and I pray none of you listening will ever misuse that trust. But on a bike, it's an intimate experience that is never more than a few inches away from the visceral. When I take a slave girl on the back of a bike, I prefer joy rides to thrill rides. Lads, if you're planning on taking a lovely creature for such a ride, there's no need to show how fast your bike can go, or how well you can weave between other road users. Instead, let her feel how smoothly you shift, accelerate, roll, and brake, and how deliberate, decisive, and yet slow your hand movements are. Give her an experience of a master horseman, not a show jumper or racing jockey. Also, get her into some gear. Think of it as some bondage, or a marking that she's yours. Just get something solid between that skin of hers that you like so much and the pavement or exhaust pipes that will take a bite out of it. Do you even need to ask your woman if she'd like to hug you for an hour? Now, there are a wide variety of motorcycle cultures here on Earth. You can picture them in your mind's eyes, can't you? The bearded, leather-clad man wearing shades and a barely there tiny party lid or skullcap-style helmet. Is he looking at you as he thunders by on his cruiser? Or do you see a retired school teacher riding in a sport tourer in all-weathered gear? Can you picture a hipster on a 30-year-old cafe racer motoring to a vegan restaurant? How about someone wearing spine armor with a visored helmet hitting the jumps? I've got it. You see someone wearing a one-piece leather motor suit on a track bike who lives his life a quarter mile at a time. Many riders, like myself, participate in several of these subcultures, and most start with one and move into another over the years, as their wives secretly dye their hairs gray in their sleep. There are differences. Some riders tread lightly in the exhaust noise department. Others live by the phrase, "loud pipes save lives." In the silly country I live in, male members of a certain religion are exempt from the helmet laws if they have a large enough turban. That's a freedom I would personally like to have and not use, but I don't dwell upon it. A few years ago, an iconic Hells Angels member, Sonny Barger, passed away. Whether one thinks of the Hells Angels as a ruthless criminal organization or as merely a motorcycle enthusiast club, nobody can deny that freedom is near the top of their list. At Sonny Barger's funeral, one of the speakers was American journalist Tucker Carlson. As it turns out, Mr. Carlson is himself quite the motorcycle enthusiast. The most memorable part of his speech was when he quoted Sonny Barger himself, who was known to say, among other things, "Stay free." Tucker lamented that the American people needed to hear this from an outlaw motorcyclist rather than their own political and cultural leaders. Either way, I think the OMC, that's Outlaw Motorcycle Club culture, has at least two things right. They aren't afraid to officially say that membership in their club is open only to men, and women in this culture wear patches on their jackets or vests that say, "property of" their male club associate. In our Western gynocentric culture, where men can't exclude women from a testicular cancer support group, let alone a social club, and very few men mark their property, it's nice to see a few men carve out some space for themselves and mark what's theirs. In Gorean, the word for stranger is explicitly identical to the word for enemy. Though, as an amateur of languages, I find this linguistic convention highly unlikely, it gets a point across. To everyone on Gore, we are us and they are them. Still, unaffiliated tarnsmen, or even tarnsmen who are strangers to each other, pay each other a sort of respect. Some of these gestures are themselves technically hostile, such as placing a hand on a hilt, but they accord a degree of mutual respect and acknowledgement of each other's deadliness. Perhaps more importantly is the concept of a sword brother. Men who have shared in a battle, even on opposite sides, feel a kinship with each other that transcends the political alignments of their respective cities or factions. This is clearly a case where the warrior's code is held dearer than the worldly concerns which hired the sword in the first place. Here on Earth, the loose brotherhood of motorcyclists can be seen in the form of certain gestures we make towards each other, especially when headed in opposite directions in the closest lanes. There are even some YouTube videos which lay out when and how to do the bike wave. This particular gesture of fraternity may not be worth much, but I suspect that motorcyclists are much more likely to help each other when one is in distress than ordinary motorists are. A couple of days ago, I caught a bit of help from a man who I suspect was a motorcyclist, though he was driving a large pickup truck that day. I was doing my best to safely and quietly bypass some traffic, and this driver used his powered mirror function to fold the mirrors flat for a moment so as to give me a hair more shoulder room. This driver got the bike wave, for sure. If you've ever done this, or some other gesture that makes things easier on us two-wheelers, thank you. If you don't ride, I'd like to make you an associate member of our brotherhood. This penchant for such a mobile fraternal association is not some confection imposed on the psyche by popular culture. It comes as naturally to men and boys as does running and climbing trees. I remember some years ago, when my son was 3 years old, he was just beginning to master the art of pedaling on 2 wheels, when he declared that he, his best friend, and 2 other boys in the neighborhood had started a bike club. I asked him what the name of the club was. He consulted with his new clubmates and came back to me with their new name, The Shadow. Nobody had to teach them to start a gang. If you're listening and you believe there's more riding in your future than in your past, there are 2 books I highly recommend. One is called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. To own and operate a motorcycle properly is to understand mechanical concepts. There are a variety of mechanical failures that, on a 4-wheeled vehicle, would result in an inconvenience, which on a motorcycle would result in a drop, an injury, or death. The book's title isn't deceptive in the least. Keeping one's mount in good shape and understanding what to look for is indeed a Zen experience, not unlike that of a warrior or artisan sharpening the tools of his trade. Riding a motorcycle is a much more mechanically involved experience than driving a car. Modern cars can essentially be handled like remote control cars or vehicles in a video game. Between a steering wheel and 2 pedals, you can do about anything you need to do. You need not have any particular understanding of torque converters, clutches, throttles, carburetors, fuel injectors, etc. Motorcycles are very different. You're about 1 loose bolt away from a really unpleasant conversation with the pavement at all times. Take it seriously. The second book is called Proficient Motorcycling, The Ultimate Guide to Riding Well. This book breaks down several techniques which make one a better, safer, and faster motorcyclist. Faster? Isn't that the opposite of better and safer? Not exactly. Speed is one thing. Any monkey can roll on more throttle, and there are plenty of bikers who are simply willing to take many risks in the service of speeding along. They will thrust and jerk their bike around in and out of traffic, making liberal use of its tremendous capacity for acceleration and taking advantage of its slim profile. Proficient motorcyclists, on the other hand, are incredibly smooth, judicious in the selection of their lines, decisive in their maneuvers, have backup plans and escape routes for every situation, and frequently end up getting there sooner anyhow. This book is worth its weight in gold, but one of the most fundamental things that one learns from it is that riding has risks. Even if you're doing everything right, something can come whipping around that next corner and literally take your head off. Last but not least, if you want to make motorcycling a part of your life, take a motorcycle safety course. Many motorcycling schools will take you from theory to practice, lend you the bike for road rides and road tests, and even help you through the licensing process in your jurisdiction. It's money well spent. Thanks for listening. I could go on and on about motorcycles all day, but that would cut into my riding time now, wouldn't it? In a future episode, I'm going to get into the H word, honor. That word takes up quite a bit of space in people's heads, Goreans especially, so I'd like to drill down on it and see what's underneath. But please join me again next week, where I'll be talking about a topic that can really pull people down: addiction. This problem has put plenty of people into the ground and shows no signs of slowing down. Quite the opposite, in fact. The episode on addiction is also something of a tribute to a fallen member of my little tribe. May he rest in peace. For now, though, lads, like Sonny Barter said, stay free. Lasses, hop on. You could hold the handles behind you, but it's better if you just hug the rider. That will keep you leaning the right way. Talk to you in a week.